Hello, universe, and welcome to a long-delayed return of the Film Examiner. I am character King Kingsley Martin, and today we are going to be talking about the movie We're the Millers, starring Jennifer Aniston, Jason Sudeikis, Will Poulter, Emma Roberts, and the man, Ed Helms. Directed by Rawson Marshall Thurber and written by Bob Fisher and Steve Faber. Okay, so let's just talk about the story. It's pretty expressed throughout the trailers. If you've watched the trailers for We're the Millers, I will put a link for that trailer in the description below. Essentially, it's this small-time drug dealer gets motivated into going to Mexico to pick up a smidge of marijuana, or a smidge and a half, as Ed Helms tells him, is the character of Brad. And he ends up, in order to be able to get across the border, back across the border to America, he essentially decides the best covers and the least, sort of obvious thing to do is to go as a family vacation in an RV. So he convinces, through a series of events, Jennifer Aniston, who is a stripper, and Will Poulter, who's just a young guy who lives in his building, and this street girl played by Emma Roberts, to assist him in this process. And really, the story is really interesting. Interesting is like a kiss of death. It's entertaining, and I like it in the sense that it's not just about. There's a couple things that happen in the movie. Let's see what the best way is to express it. So, one aspect is he goes to pick up these drugs, and the concept of getting back across the border with what turns out to be a little more than a smidge of marijuana. Let's put it that way. That seems to be what we would expect to be part of the story, but they add in the other element of the fact that the drugs technically belong to someone else, and then they're being chased by that person. And then on top of it, they add another dynamic with the characters of Katherine Halen and Nick Offerman as these other travelers who they encounter. And during all of it, it's about these people growing closer to each other. The characters played by Aniston, Sudeikis, Poulter, and Roberts, and how they sort of start to interact and get familiar and connected to each other. It's great because there's not just one element. There's a multitude of things going on, and it doesn't make it to where it's just them being constantly chased by people. It's got a little bit of chasing in it. It's got a little bit of the emotional side of sort of finding this misfit of people to become a family, and it's got these sexual undertones going on and this experimentation and such. And it's actually really, for the most part, there's not a lot of bad language in it. There is some, don't get me wrong, there is some bad language, but there's some suggestive sexual not suggestive, but blatant sexual things going on. But it's really, overall, not that bad of a story. Conceptually, they find some really good moments they get to pull off in the movie. So the story overall is pretty strong because they combine multiple elements, and it's not just one aspect that could have made it really easily very boring. So overall, the story is not bad. I would say the story is probably in the 3.5 range, just because they added a bunch of elements to it. Talking about the characters, I think the characters were actually pulled off pretty well. Sudeikis is very strong. Just talking about the actors a little bit here. Jennifer Aniston, everybody pretty much knows. If you don't, I don't know where you're from, but Jennifer Aniston is was one of the main stars of Friends. She's gone on to do a bunch of other movies and been very successful. She was also really recognizable because for a short period of time she was married to Brad Pitt before, don't ask me why, he moved on to Angelina Jolie. No offense to Angelina Jolie, but Jennifer Aniston's a far more interesting character. I don't know what she's like personally, honestly. She could be a complete jerk, but so far she's a great talent and very, very pretty. Jason Sudeikis, everybody knows from You probably know him from the Cleveland Show. He was the voice of Holt Richter. He's also been on Saturday Night Live forever. He's done with Saturday Night Live, though, now, from what I understand. Then Will Poulter has been really, he's done a lot of guest spots in some movies. He's probably most recognizable in a long-term sense for his guest spots on School of Comedy. And then Emma Roberts was on a show called Unfabulous, which was really good. So they all have some experience. And Ed Helms, who has a little bit more than a normal cameo in this film. Ed Helms, everybody knows who Ed Helms is probably at this point. He's so famous for The Hangover and his role on The Office as Andy, and he's just, you know who Ed Helms is at this point. And he's always a great addition to any movie when you can get him in there. And especially when he does those little bit parts and he gets to be his sarcastic self, the way he pulls it off the best, he's great. Nick Offerman does good in this film, so does Katherine Halen. It's a really strong cast overall. And I think that the characters are very distinctive in that way. You see evolution, especially of the four main characters in ways. Keep in mind it's a comedy. It's not necessarily a completely believable comedy, but overall in this world they created, the characters evolve in their own small to large capacity over the course of the picture, and I think that makes it very, very strong. So I really like the character development. I'd say the character development is probably one of the stronger aspects of the film. I'd probably rate it about a 4 because it's really well performed and portrayed by the cast, and you definitely see the levels of their growth, from small to large as far as their development as characters. So the characters is probably easily a 4. The direction, the guy who directed this has not directed a lot of stuff. He directed Dodgeball back in the day. Rawson, Marshall, Thurber. Thurber. Say that 3 times fast. So he directed Dodgeball back in the day with Vince Vaughn, and he did a really good job in that. I'm not as big of a fan of Dodgeball, but I know a lot of people who enjoy Dodgeball. He hasn't done a lot of stuff that you would probably know outside of that. He has done other things, but not anything you'd really necessarily be as familiar with. So We're the Millers is definitely a big opportunity for him because of the cast he's working with and the budget he's working with. I think he pulled it off really well. I think it was really well done. His efforts to make the story stay interesting, the different shots that he created along with his DP, I think he did a really, really solid job. There was a lot of feeling in the way he did it. I think he had a good selection of music for the edit ultimately. I think that he directed the cast well so that they were distinctive and they all stood out in their own way. I think he did overall a really, really fine job, and I will be very happy to see any other Thurber, Rawson, Marshall Thurber films. I think he's a fine director, and I would be happy to see the next movie he releases, and I'm actually going to keep an eye out for it. So direction's very solid. I would give it in the circumstances, this kind of a movie, a comedy like this, I really give this a pretty high score. I'm going to say a 4.5 because I just think he did a pretty solid job in this. The cinematography's great. Knew how to create levels and the visuals of this picture. Very, very strong. Very, very strong. I did not look up the DP's name. I probably should have because they're an important part of the process. But I did not. So, great cinematography. I think he did a fantastic job, the cinematographer. You get it. I kind of jumped over the writers. Let's talk about the writers. Okay, so the writers have written a couple of other things. Steve Faber and Bob Fisher have worked on some other movies together. They've written some TV together, and I don't know why it's escaping me at the moment, but they've written, what was it they wrote that I think was really good? I can't remember. But they've co-written multiple things before. They've written some episodes of Married with Children. I know that. They've done a lot of TV sort of spot episodes. And this was, one of their, their bigger movies, probably their biggest movie for writing. I can't remember what the other movies they wrote. Gosh, why it's escaping me right now. But they are good writers. They're strong writers. I think that they did a fantastic job of molding this script. There were 4 other writers that participated. These are the 2 that are the most notable on the list, and I think that it shows with their ability to write things like Married with Children and show that sort of love-hate relationship type of thing. I think they had that experience from Married with Children and some of the other stuff that they've come from, where they can write that good, love-hate relationship, like I was saying. So, good writing. I would give the writing overall it wasn't the perfect writing, but I think it was very strong. I'll give it a 4. I think it's really worth it. I think it's a good 4. Cinematography, jumping back to that because I sort of jumped away from it. Cinematography is definitely very strong. I give it a 4.25. Definitely a 4.25. Let's see, musically is concerned, there was some great music in this picture. Don't go chasing waterfall. I'm not a singer, obviously. Even though I, do it here. Pretty good music overall. There's a great, I suggest if you see this picture that you stay till the very end and check out the outtakes, because there is some brilliant things that are done with the music at the end that are just, I'll just say, it's like a painting. It's like a Rembrandt. It's fantastic. So go check it out if you get a chance to. Musically, if you watch it, check out the outtakes at the end because it's very well done. Musically, it's really strong. It fits in with the mood of it. It's not just one style. There's a bunch of different styles that they sort of throw in, and as a result of it, it helps you sort of connect with all these characters because they all come from these different arenas of tastes. And yet there's the waterfall song seems to be a common ground where they can all, for the most part, all of them sort of come together and can relate. It's one of the relating points, and it's really strong. So music's great. I give it easily a 4. And let's see, anything else is noteworthy on this picture? I think it's just a great picture overall. I was actually really happy that I saw this picture. I saw this as part of a double feature I saw, and definitely the better of the two in my opinion. And We're the Millers is definitely a must-see in the theaters. This is an evaluation, definitely not an autopsy. This is a great, great film. So I encourage you, overall, like I said, I think the weaker end was probably the story, just because it's, even though it was good, it's all of these elements have been done before. So it's going to be hard for anybody to get without doing something really unique to get a high rating from me on the story. The execution of it is what made it good. So the story, like I said, is 3.5. The characters, about a 4, because it was strong. I'm even going to say probably more of like a 4.25. I think the characters were very strong. Direction was a 4.5. Writing was a 4.25. The cinematography, a good 4.2. I think it's 4.25. Really overall, this is like a 4.25 star out of 5-star picture. 4.25 out of 5. Really a good movie to see. So if you're looking for a good comedy, something you can escape from the stress or whatever of your day, go check out We're the Millers with Jennifer Aniston, Jason Sudeikis, Will Poulter, Emma Roberts, and the man Ed Helms, the Hangover Man. All right, take care. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Live with passion. See ya.